Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. For some reason, we didn't get that music going in the beginning, but that's okay. We'll fill that in later on. Anyhow, what's going on with our good old people? What is, as we would say in the business, what's going on? We're going to have a great show for you today. Today we are going to be talking about quite a few things, but specifically, you know what it is. Evangelicals. And what are we going to be talking about? Evangelicals. We're going to be talking about how could they really be supporting President, what's again? 40 whom? Anyhow, folks, go ahead and do remember this is a call-in show. If you're on right now, I need to ask you a favor to do right now. Please go ahead right now and share this program. Share this program before you start listening. Share the program. That's the only way we can tell the Facebook algorithm that this is a show that people need to hear. This is a show that people are going to hear. We need you to do that now. Again, this is a call-in show as well. The call-in number is 646-716-5812. I'd love to hear from everybody from all stripes, whether you're on the left, on the right, in the middle, agnostic, anarchist, liberal, progressive, left-wing, whatever. I want to hear from you. Give us a call, 646-716-5812. I'm very nice, so you don't get thrown off the phone here. You don't get insulted here, irrespective of what you have to say. So, folks, please do remember, first of all, I see a whole lot of people coming in now. Go ahead and share. I need you to share this program so that it's permeated throughout the internet. If this platform does not continue to move on, of course, we'll probably have to go to YouTube, which we think Facebook has a more diverse type of population. But, hey, that goes beside the point. So if you're watching right now, share. Also, do remember, this is a progressive show, not only a progressive show, but we cover items not generally covered by the corporatocracy, which means not generally covered by NBC, ABC, CBS, and all these other stations in the kind of detail and with the slant that we give it, because of one specific reason. We owe nothing to nobody. They owe everything to their advertisers. So we need you to be a functioning part of our democracy. And how do you become a functioning part of the democracy? You have to be a part of it. And how are you a part of it? You, first of all, share programs like these. It's a bi-directional communication. As I always tell people who listen to these programs, this is your program. I promise you, this is your program. And the things that we cover are things that interest you. The things that we cover are things to make your life better. The things that we cover are things that you want. And you know what? You can't call into MSNBC, CBS, and all these guys and say, hey, I want to have my input in here. You can do that here. You can call us. You can send us email at info@politicsdoneright.com. You can even come on the show. And I want to tell you one other, and this is a specific thing, and this is very important. What we do need, folks, is we do need for you to be a part of the program. Not only be a part of the program, but remember that this is your show, and we ask you to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright and become a subscriber if you have the wherewithal to do so. Why do we specify that specifically? Because that's the only way we survive. When we go out there to Washington D.C. for the upcoming gun rally that they're going to have, you will have special treat from a special application that allows you to see from within the crowds what we're doing if you're a patron of this show. Those are the little kind of gimmicks that we're going to be given as we go along with moving Politics Done Right. Not only sitting back down here in the studio, not only interviewing politicians, etc., but going out there in the field and doing the things that you want done, showing you the things that you want seen, etc., etc., etc. So be a part of the solution, and not only be a part of the solution, take ownership in Politics Done Right. Take ownership in your progressive media. Not only Politics Done Right, there are quite a few others as well. We want you to be a part of it because you can determine that you don't have to listen to the catered catered message from the corporatocracy that says we're only going to tell you what you want to know. Hell, if you hear something that I say that you don't agree with, if you hear something that you want to be a part of here, you have the ability to reach us directly. You have the ability to reach Politics Done Right. You have the ability to reach Egberto Willies and say, hey, you're full of it. And if you convince me that I'm full of it, guess what? Then I really will be considering that I am really full of it. So, I mean, that's a good thing you have with us. And bear with me a second. That is a good thing that you have when you come here. We are here to serve. Anyhow, what is the program going to be today? The title of the program, and I lost my page, but the title of the program today is Evangelicals, the Death of Their Morality and Decency and Path to Degeneracy. Now, that is harsh, but at this point in time, we cannot but tell the truth. At this point in time, we cannot but tell the truth. Evangelicals that are listening to me right now, one of the biggest tenets of Christianity, one of the biggest tenet of being in that realm is forgiveness. For all practical purposes, I can tell you, those progressives, those of us who know that a huge mistake was made, we forgive you. The question now, do you forgive yourself and do you make the change that is necessary to change this country and put it where it needs to be? For those new people that are coming in, please remember, folks, share this program immediately. We need you to share so that the Facebook algorithm knows that you're out here. Anyhow, Evangelicals, the death of their morality and decency and path to degeneracy. Now, subtitle, Bush speechwriters utterly destroys evangelicals in a lengthy essay. And I'm going to read pieces of that essay as I put my little input into there. Not the whole thing because it is very, very, very long. But I mean, I took out some of the extracts for the blog of the week today. And I think you should hang around. If you're listening right now, first of all, share this program and hang around and listen to these snippets that I took out of this very long essay, because it shows you, it gives you some important points that you can go ahead and give to your evangelical friends, your evangelical sister, your evangelical brother, your evangelical mother, your evangelical whatever. It helps you go out there and have a good, detailed argument or conversation with these people. They're not going to come in front of you and tell you right away, oh, I've sinned. Forgive me for having voted for Trump. Forgive me for having voted for somebody that is such a degenerate, for somebody who's really hurting the country, for somebody who has no godly bone in his body, for somebody who's not there supporting that Jesus Christ that many of the evangelicals stand for. Anyhow, Trump's most reliable and consistent supporters are the evangelicals. It is hard to explain how a group that so went after President Obama, a man with a saint halo when compared to Donald Trump, would support such a degenerate president. It speaks more about them than it does about the president. Repeating, it speaks more about them than it speaks about the president. Well, it is not only left-wing liberals or progressives who now affirmatively describe evangelicals now as more than hypocrites because of their implicit support for hate, racism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia, and xenophobia. You may say, hey, wait a minute, but we don't support all of that. You may not, but you implicitly do in your support for him, because that is the instantiation of Donald Trump. So if you support a killer, aren't you generally prosecuted as an accessory and sometimes even as the killer proper? The same should apply. Folks, if you're just coming into the show, please remember, go ahead and share this program. Even if you're not going to stay but 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes or whatever to listen to what we're going to say, share so that other people get the benefit of having a progressive show not owned by the corporatocracy. Continuing. Well, if the God they believe in is really one to be feared, then unless they atone in short order, unless they start doing things to make up for that mistake, as in supporting progressives, as in saying we can't have this anymore, as in vocally to their children, telling their children, look, we made a mistake, because this guy is evil, and in his evilness he has corrupted us all. Confessing that to your kids would be more than therapeutic. It would help them because they are watching you. They are watching their adult parents support a misogynist, support a sexist, support a racist, support a xenophobe. They are watching that. And most kids want to be, whether they accept it or not, like mommy and daddy. And they are seeing that out of their parents. Do you think that is what they want to see? Do you think they don't know better? Do you not know that if it is that they don't know better, that what you are creating is a prolonging of the major disease in this country of hate? Think about that. For all of you that are supporting Trump with all his degeneracy, that have kids, and the kids that are not stupid, the kids that are not foolish, and they see this, they know that you are supporting a degenerate. My parents, my mom, my dad are supporting a man who talks about grabbing women by you know what. My dad, my mom is supporting a man who can do these things. Folks, share this program if you're listening now. Okay, from the news feed, and then we're going to go into the blog of the week. This is a tough story, but it also may have Trumpian implications. And why may it have Trumpian implications? Because it's talking about possibly, we don't know this for a fact, but possibly a hate crime. CBS News reported the following. Police in Austin, Texas say similarities between two deadly package explosions in Texas capital city this month led them to believe the incidents are related. The latest incident reported Monday morning killed a 17-year-old boy and wounded a woman. Austin Police Chief Brian Manley said the boy died at the scene and the woman in her 40s was taken to the hospital with potentially life-threatening injuries after the explosion at an East Austin home before 7 a.m. Anybody who knows Austin know that East Austin is an area where a whole lot of minorities live, Hispanics and Latinos and blacks. In an early incident, March 2nd, Anthony Stephen Mouse, 39, was killed when a package exploded in his Northeast Austin home. CBS affiliate KEYE reports. Police also responded around 11:50 a.m. Monday to the report of an explosion in Southeast Austin in which a woman was badly injured, according to police and the Associated Press, but more information wasn't immediately available, and it wasn't clear whether it was related to the two package explosions, but it likely was. Manley said investigators aren't sure of a motive but can't rule out the possibility of hate crimes because the residents of both homes were African Americans. Now, when you hear them say they can't rule out the possibility of hate crimes this early in an investigation, but when it has all these indications, folks, it's a good likelihood it's a hate crime. We're not reporting it as a hate crime, but it's a good likelihood that it's a hate crime. And folks, it is this environment, it is the Donald Trump environment of hate that is creating these type of outcomes in this country, something that has to be mitigated, something that must be mitigated, and only you can do that in the 2018 elections. We must remember that. Folks, if you're just coming to the program, please do remember to share the program. It is important for the Facebook algorithms that you take the initiative to do that so that we understand that progressive media gets some coverage over the internet. Second story, Mediate reported the following. You just know this one is going to lead to a Trump tweet storm. What is it? During an event in India over the weekend, former Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton bemoaned the campaign Donald Trump ran in 2016 while stating that he didn't deserve to be president. The host of the event told Clinton that it is commonly said that countries deserve the governments they get. Most people are starting to agree with that. Countries deserve the governments they get. In other words, if they're not willing to go out there and fight for a good government, then they deserve the government that is placed onto them. And that's what happened in America this time around. We deserve the government that we get. Told Clinton that it's commonly said that countries deserve the government they get before asking her if America deserved a President Trump. Well, I would have to say no, we did not deserve that, Clinton responded. Do you know what time it is? Do you really know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Now, the weekly blog post is long, the weekly blog post is special, and the weekly blog post has not been pulled up yet by me. But as I Dilly-dally, here it comes. Here we go. The weekly blog post is titled, Bush Speechwriter Utterly Destroys Evangelicals in Lengthy Essay. And it goes as follows. George W. Bush speechwriter in a recent very lengthy column annihilated evangelical support for Donald Trump. More recently, or more importantly, himself an evangelical, he deconstructed the evil and results of their decadence and hypocrisy. What he has to say is striking, and a piece every one of those purporting to follow the tenets of Jesus, they must read. Evangelicals, Death of Morality and Decency. Early in his article, The Last Temptation, Michael Gerson points out what progressives and true conservatives have been pointing out since the romance between Trump and evangelicals began. Their hypocrisy was immediately evident. Here's what he said. Trump's background and beliefs could hardly be more incompatible with traditional Christian models of life and leadership. Trump's past political stances, he once supported the right to the partial birth abortion, his character, he bragged about sexually assaulting women, and even his language, he introduced the words pussy and shithole into presidential discourse, would more naturally lead religious conservatives toward exorcism than alliance. There is a man who has cruelly publicized his infidelities, made disturbing sexual comments about his elder daughter, and boasted about the size of his penis on his debate stage. His lawyer reportedly arranged a $130,000 payment to a porn star to dissuade her from disclosing an alleged affair. Yet, religious conservatives who once blanched at PG-13 public standards now yawn at such NC-17 maneuvers. We are long away from the book of virtues. So says El Senor, Bush's last speech writer. Gerson then points out the sad truth about the leadership of the evangelical movement. And it has little to do with Jesus Christ. He says, the moral convictions of many evangelical leaders have become a function of their partisan identification. This is not mere gullibility. It is utter corruption, blinded by political tribalism and hatred for their political opponents. These leaders can't see how they are undermining the causes to which they once dedicated their lives. Little remains of a distinctly Christian public witness. A sad reality, I tell you, a sad reality is that word evangelical has so lost its moral definition that the departure from identifying with the word has started. And this is interesting. Listen to this. Listen to this. This is important. Those that are just coming in, folks, please share this program right away to ensure that it can reach mass appeal based on the new Facebook algorithm. A sad reality is that the word evangelical has so lost its moral definition that the departure from identifying with the word has started. And here's what it says. What he said. As the prominent evangelical pastor Tim Keller, who is not a Trump loyalist, recently wrote in the New Yorker, evangelical used to denote people who claim the moral high ground. Now in popular usage, the word is nearly synonymous with hypocrite. So it is little wonder that last year the Princeton Evangelical Fellowship, an 87-year-old ministry, dropped the E word from its name, becoming the Princeton Christian Fellowship. No more Christian Evangelical Fellowship. It is now the Christian Fellowship. Too many students had identified the term with conservative political ideology. Indeed, a number of serious evangelicals are distancing themselves from the word for similar reasons. So you hear what he had to say there. Now Gerson itemizes how the Trump Evangelical Alliance undermined any semblance of morality they could ever claim, given all the evil they are now a part of with their partnership with the president. Think about that. Now that they've identified that they are willing to be in alliance with evil, they're willing to be in alliance with somebody who cares nothing about anybody but themselves, completely anathema to what Jesus Christ stood for. They have no concern. Their kids, the people who they take to church with them, the people who they're trying to input those values into, have to watch their parents support bend themselves into knots as to why it is okay to support a misogynist, racist, xenophobe, a homophobe. They have to twist themselves in knots, good people, to tell their kids it is okay to support this guy. In other words, it is okay to support that which is wrong. And this is what Gerson said about that. It is remarkable to hear religious leaders defend profanity, ridicule, and cruelty as hallmarks of authenticity and dismiss decency as a dead language. Whatever Trump's policy legacy ends up being, his presidency has been a disaster in the realm of norms. It has coarsened our culture, given permission for bullying, complicated the moral formation of our children, undermined standards of public integrity, and encouraged cynicism about political enterprise. Falwell, Graham, and others are providing religious cover for moral squalor, winking at trashy behavior, and encouraging the unraveling of social restraints. Instead of defending their convictions, they are providing preemptive absolution of their political favorites. And this, even by purely political standards, undermines the causes they embrace. Turning a blind eye to the exploitation of women certainly doesn't help in making pro-life arguments. It materially undermines the movement, which must ultimately change not only the composition of the courts, but the views of the public. Having given politics pride of place, these evangelical leaders have ceased to be moral leaders in any meaningful sense. In any meaningful sense. So it is okay now for you deep inside to realize that those pastors that you once respected, those evangelicals that you once respected, respecting them now is a clear and present danger to your spiritual life. I repeat, respecting or using or looking up to these evangelicals who are supporting Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to your spirituality. It is a cancer that will corrode your inner being, not only from the inside, but from the outside. Because nobody, again, unless you atone, will look at you the same way again. All your friends deep down inside who know now that you could support a degenerate to run an entire country while you have kids, while all of these other things, will forever know, unless you atone, unless you do the right thing, unless going forward you say, I made a mistake, I've got to go and atone for this. Unless that happens, many folks now know that you had the proclivity for the same disease that is throughout the body of your president. And that is not hyperbole. That is reality. And Gerson makes the connection many social justice warriors have been shouting for those who listen. Folks, please, please, if you're listening to this, share it, please. It is important on Facebook that we share it so that enough folks can see this. Share. And Gerson makes the connection many social justice warriors have been shouting for, those who would listen. The evangelical movement is now a bona fide white supremacist, misogynist movement. Not says this guy here. You know what I mean? A lot of times, and let me digress for a minute here. I must digress. A lot of times when folks who look like me make comments like that, a lot of times the majority population would simply discount it because, well, he's saying that because that is who he is. No. That's not who I am. In fact, I'm pretty darn straight in the way I describe things, irrespective of culture, religion, race, or anything. Pretty darn neutral. But coming from this particular author, Gerson, coming from him, because he grew up an evangelical, because he's still an evangelical, because he's lamenting what's happening, it means so much more because he has a stake in this. He has a stake in the back end. We all have a stake in the front end, but he has a stake in the back end. And Gerson makes the connection many social justice warriors have been shouting for those who would listen. The evangelical movement is now a bona fide white supremacist misogynist movement. Fact. Fact. Everything that's going on. And possibly what you've just seen in Austin. We don't know for sure, but possibly. Here is the uncomfortable reality. This is Gerson talking. Here is the uncomfortable reality. I do not believe that most evangelicals are racist. Neither do I. In fact, most of the people I sit down and I speak with in Starbucks all of the times, even some that have voted for Trump, I see them as, my God, uncolor your shades, uncolor your glasses. There is a little something happening within a particular sect in this society that thinks they need to vote for Trump because even though we don't not particularly like him, there's something about him that he's going to be holding our identity, that stuff that has to be there. But no, folks, remember your identity isn't American. I mean, your identity isn't white. Your identity isn't that. Your identity is human. Your identity is human in America. That's it. He doesn't offer you anything. He doesn't give you anything. In fact, he represents all the people that have extracted from so many of us and is starting his path to extract from you. The new tax cut scam that they passed is there to extract from you. That's what it's there for. And in other videos, I've shown exactly how they've stolen from you 3 times with that one tax cut. But going to the subject at hand, and that is something that more than a political compromise, he says. It is a revelation of moral priorities. If utilitarian calculations are to be applied, they need to be fully applied for a package of political benefits. These evangelical leaders have associated the Christian faith with racism and nativism. They have associated the Christian faith with misogyny and the mocking of the disabled. They have associated the Christian faith with the lawlessness, corruption, and routine deception. They have associated the Christian faith with moral confusion about the surpassing evil of white supremacy and neo-Nazism. I am not saying this. This is Bush's speechwriter. A very religious guy, an evangelical guy, a guy who went to evangelical schools. This is a guy who is going through hell in his head because he sees what's happening. He's seen what happened. And why am I doing a program on evangelicals? Why am I not talking about the social security? Why am I not right now talking about the things that we as progressives have to do to win 2012? Why am I not talking about, let's say, student loans and what we can do right now? That's what should be one of the subjects or the major subjects. But the reason why, after I read this article, I said, you know what? Just maybe this article will put some, I don't want to say put some sense in, but just maybe this article would have people rethinking. Because you know what? We also need the help of a lot of those evangelicals. We don't need a win in November. We need a big win. Because the things that have to get done in this country don't require 50+1. It requires 60-40. It requires a lot. It requires a lot. And we have to get those that are gettable, those that still have a mind of their own. We have to get those, and there's still a whole lot of evangelicals that do. We need you. So we are hoping that when a person in your sect who has more credibility than I do with you can talk to you, that it has that much more meaning. They have associated the Christian faith with moral confusion about the surpassing evils of white supremacy and neo-Nazism. The world is full of tragic choices and compromises, but for this man, for this cause, so says Gerson. Gerson then castigates the lack of decency. He castigates the lack of decency of evangelicals and the effects it has on the country, as he believes that in religion comes a part of a country's moral compass. Okay? This is what he says here now. He said, "It is the strangest story how so many evangelicals lost their interest in decency and how a religious tradition called by grace became defined by resentment. This is bad for America because religion, properly viewed and applied, is essential to the country's public life." And I do believe that. You know, I grew up, I am not a Christian, I'm a humanist. So I don't do the church thing anymore or whatever. I respect the church thing and those who decide that that is how they want to participate spiritually. But I'm a humanist. But I tell you, I grew up a Christian. And those values are good values. They make good people. So what he says here, I concur. He says, this is bad for America because religion, properly viewed and applied, is essential to the country's public life. For a whole lot of people, just having a moral integrity based on humanity is not enough. For a lot of people, just being human and knowing that you need to treat another human being as you would have them treat yourself. I didn't need a Bible to tell me that. But some people do. And henceforth, the reason why he states religion has a life of its own in a society. The old one-bloodism of Christian anthropology, the belief in the intrinsic and equal value of all human lives, has driven centuries of compassionate service and social reform. Religion can be the carrier of conscience. It can motivate sacrifice for the common good. It can reinforce the nobility of the political enterprise. It can combat dehumanization and elevate the goals and ideals of public life. So true. So true. Folks, please share this program. And please remember this is a call-in show. I'd love to hear from some of you. 646-716-5812. 646-716-5812. I'd love to speak to you. Now, it is clear that this man is hurting. It is very clear this man is hurting. Michael Gerson is an evangelical. As such, it is clear he is taking the demise of his sect as they lay in bed with a degenerate character like Donald Trump. He ends his piece with a lament. And it is sad, but here's his lament. It is difficult to see something you so deeply value discredited so comprehensively. Evangelical faith has shaped my life, as it has the lives of millions. Evangelical history has provided me with the models of conscience. Evangelical institutions have given me gifts of learning and purpose. Evangelical friends have shared my joys and sorrows. And now the very word is brought into needless disrepute. This is the result when Christians become one interest group among many, scrambling for benefits at the expense of others rather than seeking the welfare of the whole. Christianity is love of neighbor, or it has lost its way. And this set an urgent task for evangelicals to rescue their faith from its worst leaders. He had the gall, the guts to say it. Rescue the faith from its evil leaders. Again, let's repeat. Rescue the faith. When you go to church and you have that pastor pushing Donald Trump, it is time for you to fire that pastor. Remember again, even the church has channels under which you can get rid of your minister. That minister that caused you to make the wrong choice. That minister that made you believe that Trump was okay. That minister that fooled you. That minister that tried to give biblical reason to Trump. That minister is evil and needs to be fired, because of all, he should know better. And a lot of them said God has spoken to them. I don't believe in that kind of a thing. But if you do believe in that, and you see their support for this guy, maybe it's not God talking to them. Maybe it's simply a conversation they're having with Lucifer. Have you ever thought about that? That conversation they may be having may have very little to do with God, and it may have everything to do with Lucifer. So let's remember that, folks. Those people who led you into a vote for Donald Trump are no different than Donald Trump. Yes, I'm speaking about your pastors, your reverends, and any one of those leaders who told you it was okay to vote for Donald Trump. Folks, telephone number 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. I would love for you to go ahead and make sure to share these programs. So very, 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 very important, so that we can get our message out. All right, what I'm going to do right now is see if I have any comments that I need to go ahead and answer. But folks, this is a serious topic. Like I said, I would much prefer to be talking about student debt and what we can do to solve the student debt issues, because the student debt issue right now is destroying a whole part of our country, specifically our kids. You know what? I think I also need to go ahead and check some of these messages beforehand from the previous from the previous version of this. Again, folks, number is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Come on, give us a call, give us a try. All right, let's go ahead and see what kind of messaging I have here, if my stuff will just cooperate. Okay, I have a message here from, let's say, Tom Hines. Welcome aboard. Need new blood. Tom Hines, exactly as okay. Let's see, Michael. White state in the caller. I'll give. Let's say white state is the caller in. I'll give you a short list. I don't know, but folks, give us a call. 646-716-5812. Justice Democrats. Tom Hines, check out the Justice Democrats. Yes, you should. All right, the big money corruption is the problem. True. Tom Hines says, that's what Clinton did. She was armed with a knife. These debates were horrible, letting him walk behind her and interrupting her. Now, I want to keep reminding folks, she won the popular vote. Yes, she was derelict in her duty to campaign appropriately in Pennsylvania, Iowa, and Michigan, which probably would have won her the election, but she didn't. That's over. We know what, but it wasn't like she was ever a great candidate, okay? She was never a great candidate. So, but do remember, though, that she got the vote of most Americans. In fact, 3 million more so than Donald Trump. So what we can say is that most voting Americans made the right choice in the options that they had. Now, you guys know what I feel as far as the kind of candidate that we must have. Okay, let's say Michael Rudin says the duopoly is the problem. You're absolutely correct, Michael. I believe that once progressives take charge, they should try to fix the duopoly, meaning try to create, I would much prefer a parliamentary type system. Okay, 3 Justice Democrats won their primaries. That is true. 2 more went to runoff elections and only 2 lost. And my friend in San Antonio is in a runoff as our revolution candidate. I don't remember his name right now, but I'll remember. Rick, I don't remember his last name. Anyhow, when you have the lower end of the economy getting money, they spend 100 or 110% of what they earn. As you've had a transfer of wealth to the top, a transfer of income to the top, you have a shrinking consumer base. Very true. I'm not talking about that today, but you're absolutely right, Michael. Bernie's probably going to run in 2020. I'm hoping that he picks either Tulsi Gabbard or Nina Turner. Or my biggest concern with Bernie running again is his age. Yes, I know he's well kept. He seems to be energetic, all that sort of stuff. But when you reach a certain age, your decline can happen rapidly. In other words, you can be very well, but your decline can happen rapidly. So what I think better than Bernie Sanders running is it would be good if he were to find somebody that he can coach. I have a caller here. Caller coming in from 917. 917, you're on the air. How can I help? First of all, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Michael Rudman, one of your comments.
Oh, thank you, Michael.
You're reading comments from a previous video.
Right.
It's nothing to do with the topic that you're covering now.
Okay.
So check your list.
I appreciate that, Michael. I appreciate that. Go ahead.
That's pretty much the only thing I wanted to say. I'll catch you next time. I'm going to go back to the Facebook comments.
Okay.
Catch you later.
Well, keep commenting, my friend. As you heard, apparently I was on the previous video. Actually, I think I was on the video that we had failed before. Now I'm back to the correct video. Thank you very much, Michael. Hey, Bill McCloy, let me make sure that I am on the right video. Yes, Evangelicals, the Death of Morality. I'm on the right video now. Okay, let's see. Hi, Michael McCloy, or Bill McCloy. Remember, Bill is running for judge. I can't officially on air say vote for him, but he's a good guy. He's been on the show, and we love the guy. Michael Redden, let me repost a couple of my comments. Thank you very much, Michael. All right, let's see. Michael says, going to talk to evangelicals about Trump. There's a bit of good news. Evangelical women will be the first to back away from Trump. Yes, the New York Times reported that. And as usual, I have great listeners. Michael remembered to put that into the comment section as well. Hey, folks, give me a call, 646-716-5812. You know I can go talking forever and ever, amen. but I would much prefer to hear a lot of your input. I get your emails, I get your links, I get your all these things, but many of you are kind of timid to get online. Don't be timid. Don't be timid. Oh, and Michael at the top of the list says, Egberto, you're reading the wrong comments. Okay, let's see what else Michael had to say. Racism and hate have always been an underlying theme in our nation. It's just that Trump has on multiple occasions emboldened the racists, makes me often question how will we become a post-racial society. Look, a post-racial society does begin with integration, all right? I mean, those people who believe in integration had a good thought, but I'm going to give you some caveats, right? During the initial stages of integration, things are kind of difficult, and let me tell you what I mean by that. What happened during integration? Let's use the Black and Latino communities, because those are the major groups in this society that sort of hung together, right? Meaning in particular regions in this country, meaning they had neighborhoods and that sort of thing. What happens is this. You have, generally speaking, when you have integration, is more of the affluent folks within each of those neighborhoods. They would leave and then they'll go to white neighborhoods. And what happens then, in as much as the white folk in those neighborhoods who see that, hey, all these other people put their pants on the same way that we do. They have the same hopes and expectations like we do, and they have all these other things like we do. They see all of that. So those people are changed just fine. But something twofold happens, right? The communities that pretty much drained the professionals, in other words, given that a lot of these minority communities then have left these, let's say, predominantly Latino or predominantly black communities, what happens then is you have pretty much a brain drain. So you don't have a community that has all class levels and all of these anymore. What you get is a community that is devoid of that. And that is why a lot of these communities after integration have actually run down. I mean, I could show you parts of Houston that, I'm originally from Panama, so I don't know what a lot of these parts of Houston looked like pre-integration, because I came here when integration was in full vogue. But I can look at some of those houses and see the layout of these communities, and that were predominantly black or predominantly Latino communities, and say, wow, I can envision how these were beautiful communities, and now they're in disrepair. But the homes and all of that in these communities were great middle to upper middle class communities, but now they're not because of that brain drain, if you will. So it's a double-edged sword. So the idea is, when integration has to be done, not the way it was necessarily done, but integration has to be, you have to try to have a form of bidirectional integration. Otherwise, what you find is look, if you have a society where the vast majority of the majority population does well, and the vast majority of minority population, not the vast, but a plurality of the minority populations do well, you're going to get a net migration to white communities. And then what that does is the ones who can migrate are the ones who have the wherewithal to do so. And in doing so, they deplete their own communities. And in that depletion comes what happens everywhere. I mean, what happened in the what we call the bad areas of Houston now is the same thing that happens in the bad areas of Appalachia. It's a socio-economic issue. Let me go ahead and refresh this page so that I can pull out anything new here. Bear with me 1 second as this stuff refreshes. Again, folks, the telephone number is 646-716-5812. I'm a New Yorker. Oh, Michael, you're commenting again. Okay, let's see. That's a good thing. I'm a New Yorker, the original melting pot. We have people from all over the world coming here, bringing the best part of their cultures to us. It's what makes my fellow New Yorkers say we live in the best city in the world. If only such could be possible nationwide. Well, let me first kind of half bust your bubble. New York does have a few problems itself, but you are correct. It's a pretty darn good melting pot. And not only you have communities. I love it because, again, like I said, I'm from Panama, and I can go to New York and feel like I'm in Little Panama, or I can feel like I'm in Little Puerto Rico or Little Dominican Republic or any one of those things. So it has integration. Look. If we taught, let me tell you, most Americans like integration in theory. right? Let me tell you what I mean by that. Think about this. They love to go to Mexican restaurants. They love to go to Cuban restaurants. They love to go to all these ethnic restaurants for the food. If there are cultural events that are showing these different cultural events, they love to go to it. I'm talking about majority population now. And minority populations going to other events at all. People like these things. So they're not implicitly anathema to being integrated. But when Trump and others like Trump come along, what they do is plant seeds, lion seeds, but they plant seeds in the heads of people that force some sort of a demarcation line. And that demarcation line happens to be race, right? Shouldn't be, but that demarcation line is made to be race. Stupid, silly, but that is what they do. That is what the Trumps of the world do. And many of us buy it because there's still that part of our brain that instinctively doesn't analyze first, but reacts first. The animal part of our brain, that old savage part of our brain, has to work that way because that was the way of survival. If something is not exactly like me, it's different, it could be dangerous, I take off. That is how that part of the brain's work. But we are now socialized. And not only socialized, but if we're in contact with folks that have different ways of looking and that sort of stuff, but we're still pretty much genetically identical for minor differences, then there's no rational reason for fear, and our brains are taught that. But by the way, we all came from the same egg, right? So, I mean, that said, the mutations came afterwards. But look, we have to get beyond those points. And when we get beyond those points, things will work much better. Not only would things work much better, but we would have a better society. Okay, let me see if I pull up my internet, if there's anything else. Let's see. Social justice warrior. Let's see, what are you trying to say there? The derogatory term that the right-wing bubble used to put down progressive. The toxic connotation, it's not a good identifier. Let me say one thing to you on that, Michael. And it's important what I'm going to say here. I refuse. That's not a good identifier. Let me say one thing to you on that, Michael. Sorry about and this. It's important what I'm going to say here. I refuse. Okay, here's what I refuse. I refuse to allow the right wing to define how we are going to speak on certain issues. That is why I have personally reclaimed the word liberal. The word, well, progressive is what liberals started to say when they were scared of the word progressive, of liberal. But I'm not going to. Liberal values is what made even those Republicans right now that hate the word liberal, it is what gave them the freedoms that they have right now. So I'm not going to get away from it. It's us running from what they ridicule that allow them to continue doing it. Because for everything that we put out there, they'll find a way to ridicule it, change the word, and then confuse Americans. Americans are not confused when they hear the word conservative, right? Because they never change the term. They're conservatives. But we're liberals, we're progressives, we're to the center, we're all... Look, accept who we are. We're progressive, we're liberals, period. And if I could wear that big L without looking foolish everywhere else, just to let everybody know, you can talk to me because I'm a liberal. You can tell me anything because I'm a liberal. I think I would wear it. Right? So it is time for all progressives to stop believing that they need to cater their language because they're going to be ridiculed. Who cares? If you stop allowing them to dictate, it is, and I'm not going to use the word just because I'm here and some people, not me, get offended by it. But if somebody calls me the N-word, I don't care. You can call me whatever the hell you want to call me. I am not going to give you the power over my day. I won't give you the power over my psyche to let hot air have an influence on me. I won't do that. So, I am generally upset at all people who make big issues out of words. You know what I make a big issue out of? Why are student loans so expensive, or why do we even have student loans? Why do we have reverse mortgages that actually pilfer people? Why do we have a tax code that allows people to rip us off 3 times with the tax scam that just got passed? Those are the things that make a difference. Those are the things that are important. Those are the things that I care about. But you want to call me an N-word? Look, I get hate mail all the time. I have one right here. I just wrote a blog about it. Get hate mail. It's like kind of cute that somebody decided to spend a half hour to write a piece of mail and try to make it incognito in the way they send it to me. I think that's kind of, must be getting to them. They must be listening. So, in short, do not, for every progressive listening out there, for every single progressive listening out there, don't change who you are. Don't change your nomenclature. You are a liberal. You are a progressive. Wear it proudly, call it out, and whenever they ridicule it, remind them that their own freedoms were dependent on the progressivity that you represent. Their own freedom is based on the progressivity that you represent. We're coming to the end of the show, folks. Thank you so kindly for listening to the show. But before I go, I have to go ahead and make my pitch again, that for those of you who are still on, for those of you who are going to listen to it on Vlogcast, for those of you otherwise, I want you to remember that this is a progressive show, not owned by anyone else but you. I want to also remind you that the only way progressive shows are going to make it is if you start subscribing to them. Personally, I subscribe to the Democratic Underground, I subscribe to Op-Ed News, I subscribe to the Daily Coast, and I subscribe to a couple others. Why do I do that? Because that is how we are going to make a difference in the progressive sphere. If we don't, and by the way, in the case of Politics Done Right, it's next to nothing. So go ahead and check it out at patreon.com/politics done right and be a part of it. I'm going to have later on, I'm going to do a video, not on Politics Done Right, but I'm going to do a video where we are talking about special, we'll be going out in the field, and when we do special reporting in the field, those people who are patrons, they'll download an app, and using that app, they'll have the special views of whatever it is that we're doing out there. But if you want progressive radio to survive, progressive programs, this is not just radio, this is also video, TV, everything. If you want progressive media to survive, and I'm not talking about MSNBC or CNN or whatever, they're not really progressive, and they are still under the realms of the corporatocracy. If you want these guys to survive, the TYTs, the Turks Network, if you want David Pakman, if you want the Majority Report and all these different programs that are out there doing what we do, it is essential that you become supporters of these shows. And the difference between us and the others is we're pretty darn cheap, because we work there's probably no more than $15,000-$20,000 worth of equipment here compared to what they have to have in the major studios. And even with the program that we do at KPFT, that one has not even $100,000 worth of, well, except for the transmitter that's 100,000 watts, that is $200,000. But anyhow, what we ask you is that if you find this of value, and if there are two things we want you to do with these programs. First of all, share them wildly. I don't care if you're watching it live or on Vlogcast or on podcast. Please do remember to share it. But secondly, please do remember to subscribe. If you have the wherewithal, and many of you go ahead and buy a cup of coffee, Politics Done Right, a cup of coffee a month doesn't, is something that goes a while if we can get several hundred people subscribing to these shows. But we do need several hundred people. So again, go to patreon.com/politics done right and be a part of the solution. This is your show, and we'll continue to do it. Folks, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show one more time. And again, please do share.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES, that is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.